got my stuff on. First day I haven't delivered over a week, so I'm slept too much, I think.
Every once in a while I gotta sleep, man.
Guess so. Alright. Fuck it.
Working Fans Podcast. Cool.
Yep.
All right, here we go. Coming down 3, 2.
Welcome back for another week of the Working Fans Podcast. This is AJ. I'm the former wrestler. We've got Dave, the ultimate fan, here with us. As we do every week, our producer Joe likes to make us sound good and makes us look way more professional than we actually are. As always, you can find us on Twitter, that's @FansWorking, Facebook, Working Fans Pod. We've got email where you can reach out to us and please contact us to let us know what you think of the podcast and for any ideas that you might have. That's workingfanswrestlingpod@gmail.com. We're on Instagram where you can keep up with us at workingfanswrestling_pod. And then you can now listen to us on all major platforms, including Anchor.fm. We're on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Breaker, Overcast, Pocket Casts, Radio Public, Apple Podcasts, and you can actually check us out on YouTube. Now, it's important when you go onto the Apple Podcasts and YouTube, hit that subscribe button, give us a rating, let us know what you think so you can help us out and we can continue to do what we love and bring you guys in as fans.
This is the ultimate hybrid wrestler, MLW's Douglas James, and you're listening to the Working Fans Podcast. Listen now.
All right, everybody, it's the Working Fans Podcast with Dave and AJ. We're going to talk some wrestling. Thought it'd be a little fun, AJ. Getting to something a little different here today. I have a few talking points. Looking back at wrestling, some things that didn't work out. And why it failed. And one of the first things that jumped at me was Brawl for All. Why did that not work out?
Brawl for All failed because the person went over that the WWE didn't want to go over. So anytime you bring something legit into something that's a work, the cross and the fallout can be absolutely horrible. And you took guys who were legit badasses in bar fights and in wrestling and stuff of that nature. You put gloves on their hands and told them, now you're going to box.
Right, with some takedowns. It's funny you say that because one of the things I like about MMA is the unpredictability of it. But I will say this, sometimes it's hard to promote your top stars because of that reason, because the unpredictability of it,
But the thing about MMA is you have guys who, even though they might be better at wrestling or might be better at striking, when they're in their training facilities, they're training in both.
Right.
You started a tournament with guys who have trained for neither.
Sure.
And basically took guys that were known for their bar fighting or backroom fighting or maybe their amateur wrestling from 20 years ago.
Right.
And all of a sudden said, all right, guys, here's some rules. Try to follow this. And you took everybody out of their comfort zone.
Yeah, and I think there's something to be said, too, that, Vince McMahon, I think, thought about buying UFC many, many years ago in MMA. And one of the reasons why he didn't get into it was because he himself said it's hard to promote when you can't control the outcome.
Well, Bart Gunn in an interview, and many times has said flat out that when he beat Dr. Death Steve Williams, when he came back through the curtain, that nobody from the WWE would actually talk to him.
Yeah.
That they were actually pissed off at him, and instead of going for the underdog and saying, all right, we've got an underdog story where this underdog won, they completely got pissed off and told him to fuck off.
That reminds me of when Jake the Snake was telling a story about how when he DDT'd Hulk Hogan on the snake pit and they dropped him, and Vince McMahon was in the back waiting for this Jake. Well, they're going to start chanting Hulk Hogan. They're going to chant Hogan. You're going to make a ton of money, Jake. And then the crowd just started chanting DDT. And Vince goes, well, you're fucked. Never mind. We can do 2 matches.
Yeah, this is basically anything that happens that Vince McMahon doesn't expect to happen is never going to be a good thing for your career.
I got 2 more of these I want to throw at you. Psycho Sid. Now, to be fair, Psycho Sid was a former WWF World Champion, former WCW World Champion. He's main evented pay-per-views. But a guy with his look and size, a lot of people thought he would have been the next Hulk Hogan, the next Rock, even though he was before the Rock, but you get the idea. Why did he not reach that next level?
Oh, because he looked like a psycho. You can't have somebody be the next Hulk Hogan who's coming out, even though he's rippled with muscles and is bigger than Hulk Hogan, if he looks like he might kill your children.
Well, I'll say this too. I would say one of the issues maybe Sid had was probably behind the scenes. I mean, even as a kid, when we watched this guy, how many times did Sid get on a roll and then he just disappeared?
He disappeared. He would go do things. He wouldn't show up. He had Ultimate Warrior-like tendencies. He got into stabbing altercations.
Sure.
But once again, did he fail?
That's a good point. I mean, at the end of the day, he was still successful. Maybe he didn't reach that next level success people thought he could have, but I mean,
he was a world champion in both organizations,
and he was in the main event. Although not one of Undertaker's better matches, he was in the main event at Mania.
I mean, it's hard to call a guy a failure who won everything.
Good point. Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, maybe failure is the wrong word for Sid. It's just maybe why didn't he make it to that next level? But he definitely did.
But Sid's not one of those things that we don't know why he didn't make the next level. As much as we might try to debate it, it's very simple. He was inconsistent. He wouldn't show up, and basically he was just a good old boy who wanted to get paid when he wanted to get paid and didn't want to show up when he didn't.
All right, how about a wrestler who was probably about maybe 6'4" to 6'6", second generation, Eric Watts? What happened with him?
Eric Watts was shoved down everybody's throat by his father. And when you shove anybody down anybody's throat in wrestling, the fans react differently. If you look at Roman Reigns,
sure,
until the leukemia, when the fans feel like somebody's being shoved down their throat instead of what they want. The other problem was he never really had a wrestling build or wrestling ability.
I think he could have fit maybe an old school type thing if his work had stayed sharp. I don't remember Eric's work a lot as he progressed because Eric got the rug pulled out to him a lot. I don't think his situation, like you said, he got shoved down our throats, and a lot of people in the business didn't really like his father. So he didn't get a break being a second generation.
Well, that's just it. And once his father lost power in WCW, where was Eric Watts going to go?
Right.
Whereas if it had been the old UWF territory, Eric Watts would have been shoved to the moon, and there would have been no stopping it. So, but unfortunately, you mentioned his height. He did have height, but he had basically a Montez Ford build.
He did not have a Montez Ford build. Not that there's anything wrong with that. Montez Ford is a great athlete, and Eric was a little thicker than Montez, but that's another story.
Yeah, but
I will say this: Eric didn't have quite the muscular definition of a Montez Ford, but hey, times were different.
It's not muscular definition if you look like you haven't eaten in 6 weeks.
He looks fine.
However, I will say this: Montez Ford, much better athletic ability than Eric Watts. Although Eric Watts was a quarterback for Louisville, so let's not knock him completely.
Yeah, let's try another different topic here. Wrestling on Wednesday nights. We were talking about this off taping a little bit. Basically, AEW has been winning pretty consistently now, but what we've noticed is the audience hasn't really grown much. It goes up some weeks, down some weeks. Stays about the same.
The audience hasn't grown for a reason. NXT is not putting out a consistent product, which I know has something to do with the carnivorous virus, don't get me wrong.
Yes, the carnivorous virus.
Yeah, or the coronavirus, or whatever the hell you want to call it. I know that there's some of that to be blamed. I'm not completely blaming NXT. But AEW, who's putting out a better product, even with the coronavirus, still is not growing it. And the reason why is it's a niche audience. The people that are tuning in for AEW are the same people every week who know what the product is, want to see the product. They're not growing it because they're not reaching out towards the mainstream WWE audience, which is something they had said they were not going to do.
Right. Let me ask you something. NXT was put out there. I'm curious if you agree with this, because there were people within WWE like Triple H who wanted to put on a more wrestling-based product, different between Raw and Nitro. I'm sorry, Raw and SmackDown. But NXT was put on Wednesday nights on USA Network by Vince McMahon just to divide the audience.
And I think that that's exactly what happened. I don't think that they were expecting huge ratings. Now let's be clear about this. Right. If you're consistently pulling in almost 1 million viewers like AEW is on TNT, that's more than their other programming pulls in.
Oh, they're being successful. There's no doubt about that. I just want to say, I mean, it seems that like Vince McMahon's plan did work to a certain point, right? I mean, that is the idea. We're dividing up a similar audience.
But here's the thing. Even when people aren't watching, like last week, we saw the numbers. 900 versus like 600 and something thousand for NXT.
No, it was, the week before was 9-5. This week was 8-6.
Oh, I thought it was just under 9 this year a week. I thought it was just barely under 9.
They dropped a little bit. NXT went up. Again, we're pulling from the same audience.
Well, that's what I'm saying. But even when they don't, the week before, AEW didn't really pull that many more viewers compared to how many were lost from NXT.
True. I'm going to throw something at you here, too. I would say the key to success, AEW, even if they weren't winning every week, which they are pretty much winning every week now, but even if they weren't, I would say they have a better chance to succeed because I think one of the key ingredients missing right now is we need that next big star, right? Like a Stone Cold Steve Austin, a Rock to catch fire. Whereas if AEW gets that, awesome. If NXT gets that, chances are we're going to be moving that guy to Raw or SmackDown. Fair enough?
Yeah, that is fair. But I agree with you 100%. But what I was saying before was that I don't actually think people not watching NXT helps AEW. The people that are watching NXT, I think, are straight WWE viewers for the most part. And when they don't watch, they're just not watching anything.
I would say there's part of that. And there is a part that watch AEW and NXT.
Yeah, but I think the guys who watch both, watch both every week.
Agree. Right.
That's why the number doesn't change much on AEW, even when NXT goes down by almost 100,000 viewers.
Right. And I would say if you look at the success rate of NXT, for the most part, it was when they had main roster wrestlers competing in that storyline, which, whether we like it or not, that is just a fact of life that those guys have bigger names.
It does. When Finn Balor shows up every week, believe it or not, it makes a difference. When Charlotte shows up every week and they know she's coming, it makes a difference.
Obviously, both shows are going on in spite of difficulties and everything going on in the world. No crowd. I'm not a fan of that. You don't really care about it one way or the other, but
I want to be clear on something. I know I play the bad guy most of the time. That's who I am. And it's not really playing. I basically have been an old man inside of a kid's body since the age of like 12.
Sure.
But,
That's just straight up. I'll back that.
But I want to be clear on something. What wrestling is doing right now to try to entertain and to put things together and to still put an audience, I know it's for their business model also, and it's not completely saint-like, but I want to say that what they're doing for us as a wrestling community to try to give us something during this horrible time is still an excellent thing, and I think it's awesome that they're taking the time to try and make the best product possible. And I think that's one of the reasons why I'm drawn more to what AEW's been doing compared to NXT, because to me, AEW is still trying to put out literally the best thing that they can, whereas NXT is like, hey, what can we get by with?
Yeah, but I think they are building to their shows to the next few weeks now. I think this week was a step in the right direction. Fair enough?
No, it was. And it did get better. And I got to tell you, we need to talk about WrestleMania a little bit.
We will. I got one more thing I wanted to actually throw out at you, and we'll talk about Mania.
Because there's something that bothers me greatly about it, so we'll get to that.
Okay, yeah, we'll get to that. That's fine. One last thing. I agree with you saying it's nice to have something to watch right now at this time. But could wrestling at least benefit from a break? If both companies were just running these video shows that you weren't interested, but then came back like in a month or two, would they be higher than ever for a while?
Or would people just not tune in?
I guess that's 50-50. I like to be positive and think that could be a good thing. But
when you're a new product and you're trying to grow an audience and all of a sudden you don't show up, there's a whole contingency of people that will think that you just went off the air.
Well, you got to put something on the air still. I'm not saying
No, I know, but Americans' attention span is very short. So if you don't give them what they're looking for immediately, how many people stop watching?
Well, you know what? I mean, at the end of the day, they both might not have a choice because they're both running shows out of Florida warehouses basically right now.
Yeah.
And that might not be allowed much longer.
But even look at regular booking during regular wrestling. If people don't get the storyline that they're looking for and it doesn't go in the direction that they're looking for, instead of giving it a chance to actually grow the storyline, how many people just give up on the storyline in the first week?
Yeah, I can definitely see your point on that. All right, well, let's get to Mania. There's a lot of stuff going on with Mania. Potential spoilers here for anybody listening. We don't have results, but there's some stuff that's definitely changed on this card that we know of. So go right ahead and talk about it, because I know you want it.
Yeah, I'm not going to talk about the card itself. I mean, we can talk about Roman Reigns being out and them subbing in Braun Strowman. I think that's fine to talk about. The fact that you had an injury to Andrade, which is going to bring in from NXT Austin Theory to team up with his partner. I think that those are things that are definitely stuff we can discuss.
I agree. I want to throw. I'll throw that real quick for you, real there. The Austin Theory thing. From that kid's perspective, yeah, it's an empty arena, but my God, you're like what, 20 years old, 21 years old. You're getting to be on WrestleMania.
He's going to go. He's going to go from Evolve wrestling in front of what would be a large crowd of 2,000 to being on WrestleMania. Which, while there's going to be no crowd in there, there's going to be millions of people watching.
Sure.
So it's
probably pretty cool for him.
Yeah, so for Austin Theory, not the worst thing that could happen. I don't know about the taping ahead of time.
Right, me neither.
I'm not. To me, why couldn't they still tape it live on the nights that it's supposed to happen?
Oh, I can tell you why. AEW's taped their next few shows too ahead of time. Did you hear about this?
Yeah, but there's a difference to me between WrestleMania and Wednesday night shows.
No, but the reason why is because Florida, where they're both located, they banned flights out past their.
Oh.
Yeah, so that's why both companies started taping ahead.
Gotcha. That way they could make sure people could actually get there.
Yeah, so I think I know WWE, but I believe AEW as take the next 2 weeks of programming.
But here's the problem with the WrestleMania. We know that all the talent for WrestleMania was already sequestered into a WWE hotel.
Sure.
So all the talent for WrestleMania, which is next Sunday, was already in town. So it's not like everybody couldn't fly in for Sunday.
Right. I mean, we don't. Yeah, it's hard to say. I mean, I'm sure things are constantly changing. They just didn't want to, they want to get it under control. I get what happened. I had this idea for an angle because when I first heard Roman went down, before I heard Braun was the guy that came in, I thought to myself, God, wouldn't it be cool, like on Saturday night if they had Edge and Orton? And even though they're not in the right, brands, but if Edge beat Orton in the last man standing match, they got to face Goldberg, and then Edge won the title, and then they came back with an injury angle, and then a Money in the Bank guy cashed it on Edge in Toronto, getting ultimate heel heat. I was thinking all these crazy stories would be good, and they're like, and Braun Strowman, and I'm like,
Well, here's the funny thing about the Braun Strowman thing. Back to the WWE and their immense sense of timing. Braun Strowman was as hot as could be maybe about a year and a half, 2 years ago. Now he's been literally doing nothing.
Right.
And now he's going to get the belt put on him?
Right. I mean, we're assuming get the belt put on him.
Or is Goldberg going to have his longest actual title reign?
Let's go Goldberg, baby. Spear that big son of a bitch. Put him in the ground. 2-minute squash. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm hoping Braun wins, but it's a weird situation. And you're right. Braun a year ago would have been hot as hell. Now it feels like, all right, he was just the next guy on the roster.
Yeah, now he just lost the Intercontinental title, and he runs around in circles yelling, "Get these hands."
Yeah, I had a lot better ideas in my head they could have gone with. But.
The worst part is that if you listen to the people that are out there, everybody who has talked about Braun Strowman talks about the fact that he actually has had great matches on live events and that he can work a hell of a match. And the WWE has just chosen to do what they think people want to see, which is get these hands.
On a different note, how excited to see Killer Cross potentially make his debut soon?
Oh, I think it's awesome. We're both big fans of Killer Cross.
Yeah, different kind of talent. I like him a lot. Great look, great promo, can deliver in the ring.
Well, he also has a chance because he's big enough that the WWE will give him a chance.
Yeah, and he's going to debut in NXT too, so he'll be a bigger guy down there anyway. So.
Oh, he's a guy in NXT who will look like a mountain.
That being said, too, there was something else I enjoyed this week. Oh, yeah, Brody Lee with the Take segment, reminding everybody of somebody there when he kicked Alex Reynolds out of the room for sneezing. What do you think? Who do you think that was supposed to be?
Well, not only that, but if you listen to the Chris Jericho podcast this week with Brody Lee, when they talked about Vince McMahon and trying to pitch him ideas while he's eating,
Right.
Really, the whole segment ends up being almost a shot at Vince McMahon.
It's entertaining now. Brody delivered it well, so.
Yeah, the other people were trying to eat before he was going to finish eating, and he literally went off on them. You wonder how much Vince McMahon actually is like these characters. I'm sure that they're tuning it up by about 100%.
Yeah.
But this has got to be some of the things that they interpret. Chris Jericho talked about the fact, and he's talked about this numerous times now, he would never pitch Vince McMahon an idea until he had talked to enough people to confirm that Vince McMahon had eaten in the course of a day.
Right.
Because otherwise, all Vince would be thinking about was what he's going to be eating, and he would never actually think about the idea that was going to be pitched to him. That's insane.
No, I mean, by all intents and purposes, we do know Vince is insane. This is a guy, even about a year ago, he's in the 70s, told Kevin Owens to headbutt him in the head and said, "Bring it, you fucking pussy."
Yeah, now if you want to get into real news about Vince McMahon, we can actually get into the fact that there's a lawsuit now up against the WWE from its stockholders that is being put together because they feel as though Vince McMahon liquidating his stocks and taking the money to put into surplus for the WWE or for himself is actually taking away from the WWE, and that it's also made it so that because he's liquidating these stocks, he has a clause in there that says he still maintains control of the WWE. Most companies, if you sell a certain amount of stocks, the person who buys those stocks actually can become in control of the company. And that's how people overtake companies, is by purchasing a larger share of the stocks. And Vince McMahon is trying to sell off his stocks without losing control of the company.
Sounds like a pretty fucking smart move to me. I hope he gets away with that, honestly.
Yeah, he's completely, but he's getting sued by a number of stockholders about their not doing what's best for the stockholders with the company.
Let's hope these bitter people don't get rewarded.
Yeah.
Who's the heel this week, huh?
Exactly. See, and I'm in the opposite one because I'm wondering, if somebody buys enough stocks and gets in control of the company, hey, maybe we'll see something go in the right direction.
I mean, there is that part. I wouldn't mind that. That'd be a wild card. We never know, though. We don't know what we'd be getting.
Hey, what if Ted DiBiase buys up all those stocks? He is the $1 million man.
Yeah, I won't wait for that to happen, but...
Maybe VK Wall Street.
Oh, now you're talking. All right. Anything else you want to touch on?
No, I think as a whole, wrestling is doing everything that they can right now. As for this podcast, we're doing all the weekend. We're basically in lockdown, so we're not all together. But between FaceTime and audio, I think we're doing our best to continue to get good interviews and to get solid content every week, unlike the WWE and NXT for our fans. I hope the fans that are listening to this stay safe. And please be careful out there. We care very much about our fans, especially the ones in that one in Taiwan and that one down in New Zealand.
Yeah, and the two in Italy.
Two in Italy, yeah. We're really worried about you guys. Please let us know you're safe.
Yeah.
Pretty much everybody stay safe. I know you don't have to worry quite as much in New Hampshire because there's only like one person alive in the state.
He's doing well.
But... guys, please, on a serious note, be safe, be careful out there. God bless you all, and we love you.
Get your head to the pillow at the end of the night. That's all that matters. Just get your head to the pillow. No matter how bad you're feeling, no matter how bad you think you're doing, if you put your head on that pillow, you got a fighting shot at tomorrow.
Working Fans Podcast, welcome. Today we have one of the founding members of Rockin' Randy's Rockin' Wrestling Group. He's on point with a birthday list every day. He's coming all over your timeline with humor and positivity. He's the pride of Barnstable, Mass. He's currently fighting out of Centerville, Mass. He's a man the illustrious Mike Mills dubbed a good dude. It's the mighty Josh Dunn. Remember him? Josh, how are you today?
Good. How you guys doing? That's a hell of an introduction right there.
I know. I feel like I hit almost every one of your gimmicks here. If not, we'll get into it in the discussion.
Wow. I just can't believe he's coming on my timeline. I can't wait for this.
All day, every day. Yeah.
I like somebody who works. This is off to a good start. All right, cool.
Now, Josh, just to start off with, what got you into pro wrestling? Moments, wrestlers. You're from the same general area we are, so I imagine it's WWF, WWE.
total WWF, man. You're absolutely right. I mean, I came from a young family. My uncles were like 13 and 14 when I was born. So my earliest memories of wrestling was Captain Lou, you know. He was always a character to me. And then I got into the rock and wrestling cartoons. I was all about that. I had the curtains, I had the bed sheets, I had the comforter. I mean, I was all about rock and wrestling.
I guess the ice cream bars too, right?
Ice cream bars, I remember. Those came a little bit. Those came around like when I was in 5th or 6th grade. Definitely remember those. Yeah. They weren't around too long.
No, they didn't last.
Recently making a comeback, which is weird to see.
Yeah.
I'm pretty amped about it.
Now, have you always stayed a wrestling fan, or was there a time that you kind of fell out with it?
So, yeah, I stopped watching. So I went overseas in 2003, and I definitely stopped. I mean, I'd catch it now and then. When we had an Armed Forces network over there, and they would show it from time to time. But it was really sporadic when you could catch it, when you couldn't. And I never really went back to it till about 2009 when my oldest daughter was born. And life started slowing down, and one night I'm just watching Monday Night Raw, and I'm back into it. And the first feud, I think it might have been 2008, 2009, the first feud I remember getting back into or invested in was Triple H and Randy Orton, when Randy Orton DDT'd Stephanie McMahon on TV. That was my first angle back into wrestling. It was good. I liked it.
Now, what kind of made you fall out with it? Was it just going overseas and not being able to watch it for a time? Or definitely going overseas. I was in my early 20s. I was single. You know, I didn't really fall out of it in high school because as soon as I was starting to fall out of it, when I was about 14, 15, freshman in high school, the Monday Night Wars basically started. So I never fell out of it during high school or anything, or even into college, because the Monday Night Wars were going on. But after that, it wasn't as good as, you know, it really fell off after about 2001.
You know, it's funny. I remember the Monday Night Wars and everything. I'm a little older, and me and my buddy AJ, who also does the show with us, we were talking about this like when we were working. We remember wrestling being like not really on anybody's radar. And then suddenly we're going to work and we're seeing people with NWO t-shirts and guys yelling out, "Do you smell what The Rock is cooking?" And one day it just hit me like, shit's getting really huge right now.
It was amazing, and all of a sudden it was like cool to watch, and you know, it never just even, I don't know how it was for you guys, but here in New England, like here in Massachusetts, it was like wrestling never fell off for anybody that really grew up watching it and followed it, because I was an 80s kid, and the Monday Night Wars really, like, it was a cool, like, even girls were watching it in college. I remember the Monday night parties, and I remember trying to get them to come to us, and, you know, it was a wild time.
So did you ever make a tape for one of those Monday Nitro parties?
We did, and nothing ever came to fruition about it, and I did tell Tony Schiavone one time. I did talk to him one time, and I told him about that. He basically said, you know, those tapes didn't go for him or anything like that. But
God, it must be good not to have that surface now. Like, shit, I don't want to see what my Nitro party would have looked like then.
No, I'm definitely glad that I hope they don't exist somewhere in it, because I believe we definitely it was debaucherous, to say the least.
Now, I became familiar with you because we're in similar Facebook groups, and I've noticed you kind of have an interesting approach when discussing pro wrestling on Facebook and social media. Kind of, what's your thought behind it when you discuss pro wrestling out there?
My approach has always been I never try to state anything that I say, or at least I try my hardest never to post anything that I think is a matter of fact. Everything is my opinion, and I never try to like throw something out there and say this is the worst person in wrestling, or this is the worst thing going in wrestling. I give my opinion, and then I usually try to ask a question, and I've always learned, like, that's the way to, you know, interact with people, is just ask questions, and it also, more importantly, gets other people interacting with each other. Like I may post something that's not popular. Like, take for instance, Orange Cassidy, big hot button topic in wrestling. But you'll get the guys that don't like Orange Cassidy on there, and those guys will actually interact with each other, which is kind of a cool thing if you think about it. I don't care if you like him or not, as long as you're not a dick about it, like, you know. Or and if you're being cool with each other and you guys are I mean, it's a win-win. It really is. I try to have threads that are just friendly and cool, and that's always my approach.
I was gonna say, you approach it with more like a positive, talk about the things we like, rather than kind of bitch about the things we hate. Like,
Definitely.
I love the Arcadian podcast groups, both the podcast and the Facebook groups, but there's times where the people seem to almost get really behind Jim and Brian's opinions and almost make it more of a negative thing rather than, like, why not just talk about the guys that pop us? Like, personally, I find Orange Cassidy super entertaining.
Oh, definitely. I'm with you on that.
A lot at Beyond.
I love him. I'm unapologetically an Orange Cassidy fan, and unless he does something incredibly vile, and I'll always be a fan of his. He's awesome, and I don't think people realize up here in New England how much of a big draw he was. You know, he was a draw. When we talk about drawing money and drawing houses, he was drawing houses up here. I mean, he was the show.
Yeah, like when you went to a lot of those Beyond shows, he'd be one of the biggest reactions for the night, doing as little as possible.
Oh, it was incredible. I was at American Rana in July for his match against Artie Evans, and over 1,000 people, and the place just, I never felt anything like that. I never did.
Yeah,
I did in other places.
Yeah.
Awesome time, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, and the referee, I'm breaking out his name for AEW now.
Bryce Remsburg.
Yeah, super got over with me for the first time in that match. I was like, his facials, and at first I thought it was distracting, but then as time went on, I'm like, no, I'm loving everything that everybody's doing in this match right now. These guys are putting on a great show.
I'll say this about Bryce Remsburg. He's one of the best referees in the history of independent wrestling. I mean, without him, some of these matches wouldn't have been as good as they were. I mean, he really is. I'm pretty sure he's Orange Cassidy's referee now in AEW. Like, if Orange Cassidy's in a match, I don't think you'll ever see anybody but Bryce Remsburg officiating those matches. So that's kind of a cool thing.
Yeah, he really adds a lot to the match with the facials, and just his reactions make the match that much bigger.
Yeah.
I think I first saw him at the first spring break, and I'm like, who is this goofball?
Yeah.
And then
that was my reaction, yeah. My first time seeing him was on the Joey Janela's Lost in New York. He was in, like, some kind of ladder scramble.
Oh, yeah.
And coincidentally, the ladder scramble he was in almost got them shut down because the fire commissioner, they whipped out 2 ladders in the match. And the fire commissioner was not having it. He wanted to shut that show down.
Wow, they do a lot with that GCW promotion. They have some amazing shows, especially early on before AEW really popped off, I thought.
Oh, I mean, between Beyond and GCW, I mean, that's basically where all these guys are going to the Performance Center and WWE and to AEW. They're all being plucked from those 2 companies. I mean, you got Black Label and a couple of the other ones around the country, but the majority, it's more accessibility. I'm sure there's WWE people that go to these Beyond shows. You'd have to think there's a scout in those crowds, you know?
Exactly. Now, who do you see as the next up-and-comer coming out of that GCW Beyond crowd?
You know, I've really been thinking Tony Deppen would have been signed by now. It's very surprising to me that he isn't signed. Dirty Daddy, I don't think he signed with MLW, but he was supposed to be on the upcoming canceled show in the middle of April, and that's a bummer for him. I mean, talk about a guy that deserves a shot, like just a shot, anything on TV or some kind of national exposure.
Yeah, I was real excited to see him get on MLW because we've seen him killing it up here at Beyond for years now.
Oh yeah.
That match he had with Sakimoto this year. Oh my God! I mean, I don't stop talking about that match today.
Yeah, the closing minutes.
They brought it. I guess he has always stated that his match with I believe it was Kimberly, the chair match. They worked an intergender and it went viral, and apparently that's what kept him off for a while out of the WWE. I didn't know this because I kind of didn't get involved until later on. But I guess him and Corny had a beef with each other that I didn't know about. That Corny went viral on him for that intergender match.
Yeah,
so,
I heard Corny had a problem with him. I didn't know Dickinson had responded now.
He didn't respond. I think he just said he got blocked by him and he's not going to apologize to him or anything like that. But I think that's the thing that's he's constantly said that's kept him out of the WWE. He's made no bones about it that he wanted to go. So
yeah, and it's crazy that Beyond really popped off with that intergender wrestling and was slightly ahead of the curve, I'd say. I mean, it's still not over, but they made steps.
I know Kenny Omega's talked about he wants to get it in AEW, and they did it on the cruise ship, I guess. Yeah. So it is something we could still see on a national level.
Unfortunately, we'll never see it on a WWE level. They wanted it, but I guess it got squashed by the stockholders.
And that's probably how we got that awesome mixed match challenge.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
There's nothing better than an intergender match where when somebody else tags in, hey, get the fuck out and get the lady in here, please.
Man, I've seen some really good I've seen some really good intergender matches. I've seen some bad intergender matches, but the bad intergender matches are the same as a bad match. They're just a bad match to me, you know. But there's been some good ones. I mean, one of my favorite tag team matches of 2018 was the Beaver Boys versus the Twisted Sisters.
Oh God, yeah. John Silver came out as such a heel.
It's alive. That was one of my favorite tag team matches. Not forgetting it's intergender. It was just one of my favorite matches of that year. They worked stiff. They worked great. And it's a shame that Hall of Dead never really capitalized on that. So.
Yeah, now how is it seeing the Beaver Boys on a national level now? Because we interviewed John Silver, probably he had done a couple...
He did a couple of the enhancement, but he wasn't part of the Dark Order yet. They were just starting to tease that the next week.
And they were hoping that they were going to get a bigger contract. So how is it seeing a guy that you saw every month at Beyond now on national TV getting over?
I love it. From a creative standpoint, as that fan who's sitting here critiquing a little bit, I'd rather them not have the masks on because they're good-looking guys, and honestly, they were top. I'm not going to say they're top-level talent in a major promotion, but they should be featured they should be in that tag team mix every week without the masks on. I hope to see them doing something down the road away from the Dark Order and that gimmick, because the Meat Man and Alex Reynolds, the Beaver Boys were great. They were a great tag team for Beyond.
We keep talking about this Foxwoods card, but when I saw Reynolds versus Silver on that card, that was kind of like my first time really experiencing Reynolds, and I thought this guy is a great shit heel. Like, he came out in a little smoker's jacket, and he just had instant fucking heat. I was like, I love it.
He's kind of like a throwback. I want to say like a John Morrison, Rick the Martel kind of hybrid. He's definitely an old school kind of heel. And John Silver, regardless of his size, he's a hell of a performer.
Yeah, I never really think about his size when watching him wrestle because he's built like a tank. And he just comes out with so much charisma, you'd almost think he's like 6'4".
Exactly. And when he's got somebody on his knees and he's going to do the kicks, I mean, those are some stiff kicks. And you're right, I do forget about what his height is, because he's lifting people up over. I mean, I saw him gorilla press. I think in one of the Uncharted territories, he gorilla pressed somebody over his head. He's a strong dude. I've interacted with him on Twitter. He's a very nice person and very cool guy.
Yeah, he was a very good guest to have on. Now, kind of getting back to podcast a little bit, what drew you to the Arcadian Vanguard podcast, as well as booking the territory and the accompanying Facebook groups? Because the podcasts are amazing in their own way, but then the Facebook community that's been created behind it is almost, I would say, almost as good as the podcast, if not better. So what drew you to that crowd?
So I don't know. I learned about it through Corny, and then from listening to Corny, I ended up listening to the 605, and I got submersed into the 605 and just Bix, and I was around when Bix was on, but I didn't join the Mothership group because I was never really active on Facebook or wrestling internet in general. But then one day I just asked to join the group, and 2 months later I never thought about it, and then 2 months later I was accepted into the group, and then I looked at the group and I said, oh, these guys are fun, huh?
Yeah, just some of the conversations we have on there. More so in the Rockin' Randy's Rockin' Wrestling group. But you can be filthy, you can be funny, you can get genuine support in tough times. It's just a nice community that they have there.
I love it there. That started as a joke, half joke and half resentment, and it grew into what we have now, which is just a cool. It's really a collection of people from all the great boards, you know, and it's a good place for people like podcasters and everybody like from novelists to artists to whoever to plug their stuff and share and get supported in a smaller environment. You know, we're not big. We're not a big group. We have no aspirations to be big or anything like that. I think the problem is with these Facebook groups is once they get to a certain number of people and you don't know who these people are, the less apt you want to become personal with these people, you know? And I think that's what's different about us from the rest of them.
Yeah, because I was going to ask, what led to the creation of the Rockin' Randy's Rockin' Wrestling group? Because there was a Pro Wrestling Outlaws group just before this, and that seemed to go up like the Challenger, and then Rockin' Randy's kind of came from the ashes.
So, Pro Wrestling Outlaws, I was in that group, and I like to joke around, and I like to have fun. I like homoerotic humor. I'm not in a derogatory way towards gay people, but more or less celebrating them. And this guy did not appreciate my homoerotic humor, and I said, you know what, this is not going good. He was referring to Nyla Rose as quote-unquote it. That didn't go over well with me. I have like a code of just treating humans as humans, and that's it. Like, come as you are with me. And he really showed his cards, like, of what kind of person he was. So I kind of pushed the envelope with him, and I was posting some homoerotic stuff. And finally, he was taking my post down, and I posted one night. I remember it fondly. I took a bong hit, and then I posted. I posted, I don't appreciate my post being taken down. If this continues, Rockin' Randy's Pro Wrestling group is going to be created, and you're all welcome to join. And I wrote, I promise. 5 minutes later, I was kicked out of the group. So literally, within 20 minutes, I had Rockin' Randy's up and running. And by the time, like, the 40th person joined, I said, oh, shit, what do I do? You know, like, now I got to take this kind of seriously now. Because it really did start out as a joke and a resentment, but everybody really was kind of just like, F that guy. He was a real, he was kind of ignorant. Nobody really knew him anyway. It was kind of a weird setup. We all knew each other, but we really didn't know the admin. It just made no sense. And he wanted to start his own wrestling sheet. He was asking people for their reviews of wrestling shows. And I was like, if we're gonna do a group, we're gonna do a group where everybody can just share their podcast, share their whatever. We've got wrestling columnists in there. We've got wrestlers. Anybody can go in there and just plug their stuff and be cool.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, the funny thing about Pro Wrestling Outlaws was I joined because I believe I was invited by you, or I saw you join. So I'm like, oh, if Dunn's into this, I'm into this. And one day, we've been trying to get the podcast off, so I just happened to share something in there. And that was the 1st and only time I've ever gotten a report from Facebook saying It was somebody from the page saying, hey, we're trying to grow the page here. Don't share that shit. And I'm like, that's a real weird outlook. And then I saw the problems you had with him. And then when Rockin' Randy's was up, I'm like, fucking, I'm in. Like, and that's where I noticed that you came with a certain positivity that kind of wrestling discussion on the internet doesn't see too often. So that's what led me to the group personally.
Well, internet in general sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, the great thing, if you see, like, in the Rockin' Randy's group, we have tons of old school fans. Like, I have tons of old school wrestling fans who I quote are quote unquote cranky fans, where they don't like a lot of the modern silly stuff or whatever. But they don't treat people like garbage for liking that stuff. And that's what's kind of different about the group we have, is like, nobody cares if you like that stuff, even though they don't like it. You know, nobody's going to denigrate you for liking Orange Cassidy or something as silly as that, you know? Nobody wants to not be your friend over a stupid wrestler. That's the basic gist of it, you know?
Exactly. And that's kind of why I wanted to have you on, because I thought that group was doing one of the better things on Facebook, and I wanted to share it here. Now, we've had you on for a little bit, and we thank you very much for your time.
Thank you so much.
Nice. Well, thank you, Josh, for joining us. It was great having you on. And
Dave and Joe, it was awesome, man.
Hey, we'll see you in the Rockin' Randy's group. Have a good day.
Definitely.
Have a good day.
Thank you, guys.
I kind of wanted to go into a quick list of favorites with you. I'm just going to throw you a couple different categories. You give me your favorite in each one. Are you good with that?
I'm good with it.
All right. Favorite movie?
Tupac Resurrection.
Ooh, goddamn. Favorite wrestler?
Modern Nick Cage, classic Greg the Hammer Valentine.
Ooh, wow, good. Favorite album?
After You Like Dies, Kill Switch Engage.
Nice. Favorite moment in wrestling?
Favorite moment in wrestling would be, oh man, I would say Hulk Hogan versus Ultimate Warrior.
WrestleMania 6?
Yeah, WrestleMania 6.
God, that, for people in our time frame, that seems to be like one of those classic matches that really sticks in people's minds.
Yeah, it does, because we were 11, maybe 10 or 11 years old, and it was two guys that we had grown up as kids, we had watched as kids come in head to head. It was just such a big deal for us, especially for kids here who we didn't even get WCW till '94. So Hogan versus Ultimate Warrior here was bigger than a lot of things going on.
Yeah. Favorite vacation spot?
Mohegan Sun.
Oh, wow. Did you hear about them closing down recently?
I did not.
Yeah, they're closed for, I want to say, 2 weeks, and it's wild that that's how bad the virus is getting, that the casino is closing. You would almost think that would never happen.
No, you really wouldn't, because it's really nice air. That's why I like it there. It's really nice and clean, and nice clean air in there.
So now, we're going to get to the hard-hitting questions now. Favorite strain of Iranian tobacco?
Oh, how about, I have to go with OG Tahoe.
Wow, see, me, I'm a Durban Poison guy all day.
Oh, I love that.
Favorite 90s R&B group?
Jodeci.
Favorite...
But wait, hold on. But New Edition had a hell of a comeback in '96.
I was wondering who it was going to be. I'm familiar with your Facebook timeline, and he's either hitting us with New Edition, Jodeci. I mean, Blackstreet might come out of nowhere, but they're like a distant third or fourth.
Definitely top 5.
Favorite cover song?
Holy Diver, Kill Switch Engage. Definitely.
That's a good one. Favorite
artist? And those guys are local to you, aren't they? Or one of the drummer definitely is. I met the drummer in Connecticut over at the Oakdale one time.
Oh, wow. I know they're all Massachusetts, New York, or Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut guys. Definitely.
Yeah, the drummer's definitely from Connecticut.
Wow, yeah, definitely hometown guys. Favorite artist?
Favorite artist?
Yeah, music artist or even artist, however.
I'll go Anthrax.
Ooh, that's a good one. Favorite beer or favorite alcohol?
None. I'm going on sober for 8 years. So
well, shit,
I don't want to kill I don't want to kill anybody's buzz. My favorite Coca-Cola.
Well, we'll go with this: bong, blunt, bowl, or fucking you name the method.
I'm big on the Emperador cones right now. Those are like the 2.5 long They're pretty big.
No,
Although I like those new zigzag cones are pretty good.
I'm gonna have to look for that at the store next time I'm in there.
Yeah, reputable.
Current wrestling promotion.
Definitely beyond for indies, MLW for major. Definitely.
Nice. Now, what is it about MLW that really sticks out to you? That's a favorite here. Between that and NWA, we're big on those two promotions.
MLW, I just love the talent. I like the talent. I've always liked the talent they get. They do simple promos, simple storylines. It captures my attention span. And the same thing with the NWA. I mean, I watch them all. Except for Raw and SmackDown, really. I watch AEW and NXT.
Yeah, it's kind of like what I'm into too. AEW, NXT, MLW, NWA, and with MLW, I was just wondering if you agree too. I really love, it's called fusion, obviously, but I do love the fusion of styles. Like we got lucha, we got MMA, we got these big brawlers, we got third generation wrestlers. Like I just really love everything they're doing with that stuff.
Yeah, I love it, and I like that almost everybody has a stable too. I just love the stables. That's a really cool element. Now you got Colonel Robert Parkinson with that. Come on, this is about to get I think they're going into a really good period of MLW. I really do. I
don't know if anyone else could handle the Von Erichs as well as they did too.
No.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, we've actually got Douglas James. We're interviewing him next, and we're just psyched to have an MLW guy. It's probably third or fourth we've had.
Yeah,
and it's just cool to get in and talk with those personalities.
I'm a big fan of Simon Gotch. I've always kind of liked him since he went away from NXT. He's a shooter. I've never met him or anything like that. Always been cool to me on Twitter. I like him in MLW, and I liked him on the Bloodsport last year. I don't know what you guys think of him, but
I like Simon Gotch.
Yeah,
what was the Bloodsport match? I'm trying to remember.
Kratos, I think.
Oh yeah.
I was trying to remember because I know I've seen the Bloodsports, but it's like the middle of the card. I forget who fights who. I know they're all solid matchups.
Right.
It's just it gets.
I definitely think it was Kratos. I'm going with Kratos. Final answer on that one.
I'm really holding out hope that they're able to do something with those promotions down in Tampa this year, given the news of the WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Aside from it all, I mean, my heart goes out to some of those promoters. You know, they didn't ask. They take a risk, but this is, some of these promoters may never come back from this, and that's a sad thing. Yeah, it really is.
It's hard to see who's going to make it through this. Now, who's your favorite classic wrestling promotion?
I got to go with Smoky Mountain because they had everybody.
Yeah, it was amazing the talent they had come through there and just what they were able to do with that Southern product.
They had one of my favorites is Buddy Landell. He was so good in the promo, and I've been watching along recently to some 95 when they're closing down, and he was still killing it in 95. But they had everybody. They had Jay come through. You got New Jack. They just had Corny had talent after talent rolling through. And I love Corny promos. I don't agree with all his takes, but I love Corny.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that being a Cornette fan in modern times, there is a way to be a fan of him and not necessarily be behind all the wild statements that he makes.
Exactly.
I'm
My rule is I just don't date. I'm so sorry.
Oh, sorry about that. I'm a fan all day, but I'm not going to stand up and defend everything he says. He's a personality.
And I think, Josh, this is what you were saying too, is that basically, we're entitled to have different opinions. So we can like Jim Cornette and some of his work, but we don't have to agree with everything he says. And that's okay. That doesn't make us bad or good people.
Yeah,
my rule with Corny is I don't complain. I don't post about him. I don't complain about him. I also really, I don't really agree with him and post about it because it's a divisive topic, And I don't comment much on him. I'll comment here and there on stuff, but I try to stay away from anything he says because I'm a super fan of his.
Yeah.
I treat him like how I used to treat Howard Stern. I loved Howard, but you didn't see me walking up to a woman and saying, "Show me your tits," That's just how I approach Corny. He's kind of the same as Howard. He's just entertaining. He's not meant to be. I think what the problem people interpret with corny is they use him as informative when in fact he's entertaining. He's not there to be informative or persuasive. Even his persuasion is entertaining. And I think it gets lost in the shuffle somewhere down in Alabama. I'm not sure.
Exactly. Now, I want to finish off the favorites list on a kind of a positive note. So, what's the favorite advice that you've gotten through life that has been most pertinent to you?
Mind over matter. Your body, I did a lot of physical things in my 20s, and it's always mind over matter. Nowadays, though, with our age group and the mental health component of life, what I say to people is get your head to the pillow at the end of the night. That's all that matters. Just get your head to the pillow. No matter how bad you're feeling, no matter how bad you think you're doing, if you put your head on that pillow, you got a fighting shot at tomorrow.
All right, so that wraps us up for this week. Thank you again for listening to the Working Fans Podcast. So as always, you can find us on Twitter at FansWorking. Our Facebook page is Working Fans Wrestling Pod. We have email where you can reach out to us and let us know what you think also. That's workingfanswrestlingpod@gmail.com. Follow us on Instagram, workingfanswrestling_pod. And then as always, please continue to listen to us on Anchor.fm, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Breaker, Overcast, Pocket Cast, Radio Public, all your major platforms. If you're following us on Apple Podcasts, which we are also on now, and YouTube, please make sure you subscribe and give us a 5-star rating. It helps us bring you these podcasts where we get to talk to you and talk with you every week.